Pathing doesn't suck in Planet Zoo. You do. Well, that came off kind of mean, but let's talk about this a little bit. Pathing in Planet Zoo really isn't as bad as everyone says. In fact, it's a really awesome system. Now, I know so many of you guys have played so many zoo games in the past and are just familiar with how the path systems used to work in those games. Now, yes, Zoo Tycoon, you get to make like big plazas. Both Zoo Tycoons, you can actually do that. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, you could actually build underwater, but you could do all of this stuff and more in Planet Zoo. Today, we're just going to go over a few tips and tricks that can help you better understand, learn to wrangle, and fully master the pathing system in Planet Zoo. Now, I know usually I use FreeBuild a lot, but for this video, I uninstalled it, so let's jump right into it. Now, so far in Planet Zoo, we have over 30 different types of path, all with their own unique kind of look that can really help bring out any area in your zoo. Now, I feel like people already know all there is about these, where they work best, and so on and so forth. What people mainly struggle with is the actual pathing system, where paths can get placed, and so on and so forth. Now, already right off the bat, I have this starter zoo. Obviously, everyone likes to kind of make like these entrances into the zoo. However, you could see that we can't make a path coming right out of here. However, that's because these are placed on a grid. Now, when you actually place items on a grid, they fall congruent with whatever block that they're currently standing in. And then from there, if you kind of make some more blocks off of that, you can actually have it be balanced right in the middle of these paths. Now, of course, it looks like it's a little bit off-center to the right, so what I might suggest you guys do is line it up right here and hold Control. Control is going to be your best friend when it comes to placing down paths, because it really helps to give you the most amount of control when you're kind of placing these things down. What I always suggest other players to do as well is get acclimated with hotkeys. Hotkeys are what I'm doing right over here to change what's happening in the bottom right of my screen, be it the width or the length. Once you actually start to master what's happening on your keyboard, you can get building so much faster in Planet Zoo. Now, of course, if we build kind of like this, you might have some unsightly curves over here. There are a few different ways to kind of handle this. So say, for example, if you go over here to some mulch pieces, you can kind of decorate this out a little bit. Let's just say you want to make like a little flower bed. Yeah, we could look up some flowers too. Why not? Plop a few of those down, sure. But if you just want a straight path, there are ways to do that. What I suggest you guys do is learn the place and remove technique. That is going to help you guys kind of make your best paths looking absolutely stellar and have it feel very organic. Essentially, all it is you place a path and then remove a path. And then you can do the same thing on the other side, and now you get these very nice smooth transitions in between these. And even if they still don't look right, you can keep doing it until it kind of evens itself out. You see, these work very much like a math equation where it's constantly generating where the next congruent like area is going to be, so you could keep on playing around with it and make sure it's completely level. Now, let's just say I want to make a big plaza over here. I make like the outline of where I want it to be. Let's just say, you know, I want it to be kind of like an organic form, kind of like that. But in the middle, there is nothing. I can't place any paths down there. Now, there's a few different ways that we could kind of play around with this. Once again, we could also do somewhat like a mulch flower bed over here as well. We could kind of blend in this area so that it makes kind of sense. You could decorate it a little bit and decorate this dead area. But what happens if you want to fill all that out? So for the time being, let's kind of demonstrate where our corners of this little plaza are. And then I could show you guys just how you can make this look perfect. Right, so let's delete all of this and then we could start to have a little bit of fun with the grid system. Now, not everyone likes a grid system. It makes stuff look a little bit too blocky, but there are ways to make this look very good. So we're going to use what we learned from our last few techniques and start to build out the general shape and layout of this little plaza. So essentially, I'm going a little bit further out than what I want for most of these. And then from there, we could start to kind of use our little techniques that we've gathered and start to make it make a little bit more sense. So in these little angles over here, you could see I could place down pieces and then I could delete them instantly, and that will result in these nice organic curves. And so after I place all of those, I could go even further and start to play with these curves a little bit. If you put a little edge on like the edge of a curve right there, it will smooth it out. So keep that in mind. Usually, if you want to play with it, do it in kind of like the inverse of a bump out. So I guess like a bump in. And that way you could start to make these nice organic plaza shapes. Now, what if all these paths aren't what you want for your zoo? Well, that's an easy fix right there. You can do some custom paths. Especially with the latest update, we now have null paths. So if you pop down any of these natural paths over here and untick curb on ground path, you can actually make null paths, which are indicated by kind of like these little white lines that pop up. You can only really see these once you actually place these down, but if you want an easier way of marking where your null paths are, you could use anything with a little bit more of a terrain look in there, and then pop a few of those down to help guide you. Beyond there, you could start to get a little bit more acclimated with using various pieces to help you get your natural path on. Planet Zoo has thousands upon thousands of items, and most of those items you could actually learn to use to make into natural paths that can really help bring your zoo out. And just like that, we have a custom path. Now, of course, it does look a little boring. There are ways to make your plazas and your paths look a little bit more interesting. I think one of the best things that you can do is add little decorations for your guests. So of course, placing down bins, placing down little benches, and of course, placing down lighting can always help you bring out your paths to a new level. Now, I usually see this one pop up a lot. I see a lot of people complaining about the elevated pathing system, which I think works extremely well once you know how to use it. So one of my techniques that I've been using a lot is actually holding down Control and holding down Shift to kind of make our levels for elevated paths. Now, one of the things I don't really like about Planet Zoo is that this elevation is not realistic at all. In fact, it's a very steep slope for anyone who might be in a wheelchair or using any mobility device. It's just not the best tool out there. Instead, what I suggest you guys do is build these up layer by layer. So one of my guidelines I usually like to do with this is use these barriers on the side as a way to guide yourself as to where the next layer should be. I usually like to lay them up against each other, and then from there I can start to bump it up just a smidge more each and every time. And that way you get these nice natural slopes that really fit a more realistic zoo and can give you a lot more control over how you want your elevation to play out in your zoo. Beyond that, one of my favorite things to actually do are custom curbs. I have to admit, while it is good having these nice organic shapes for your paths, it does get a little boring and a little repetitive. Custom curbs really are the best way to help bring a little bit more interest into your sections of your zoos and help them really stick out from the rest of the crowd. As I said before, there are hundreds upon thousands of different pieces to help make your zoo feel just a little bit more unique and help them really stick out with all these custom techniques that you can accomplish. So you could go for something very simple like this, or you could get very funky with some custom ones with like a whole bunch of faux rocks and stuff. Now, I'll be one of the first to admit, while I do appreciate a texture like this, seeing the Planet Zoo logo really takes me out of my immersion whenever I am making a zoo. However, when I do want to make a staff area like this, one of the things I actually utilize is the fact that you can only have just a small little like nub of staff path. So that way you can actually make this entire area inaccessible to normal guests and have it fully accessible to your staff members without compromising on the integrity or look of your builds. But what about if you don't really want any of these paths? Here we are in one of my favorite parks I've ever made, San Cabrillo Zoo, and one of the things I learned from my years of playing Planet Zoo is that the best paths are the ones that don't work. Now, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but these paths over here are not functional. They're hiding just nothing. Of course, this zoo fully functions as intended. My guests still look at my animals. But one of the things that I found is that to get my realistic zoos looking good, sometimes I need to sacrifice functionality for form, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Little slopes of path like this that I have going around here, they don't really function, and I don't think they ever will until we get null elevated paths. However, that's just something I personally feel. If you guys have picked up anything from this video, please let me know. I am super happy that I was able to make this video because I love the pathing system in Planet Zoo. I think it's leagues better than Zoo Tycoon 2, and I will happily defend it anytime I want. But if you guys did pick up anything from here, please let me know. I am super happy to teach you guys on how to make your zoo building so much better, so much easier for you too. So if there's anything, please let me know. But with that being said, I'm gonna end it right here. Watch these guests run on these paths. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's actually find some guests that are actually going on paths. There we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you did learn anything, please let me know. I'm gonna take off right here now. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.